Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder. Welcome to a German 6.0 lineup. Now, this is not the optimal lineup. As a matter of fact, this isn't really a 6.0 lineup. This is a primarily 5.7 lineup with one 6.0 tank. But I've noticed a few things. I've noticed that when your lineup consists not entirely of vehicles at 1BR, you get up-tiered less. I've noticed that with this tournament lineup, which is, it's not good, it's not bad, it's somewhat average, I haven't received a lot of up-tiers, which means that the matchmaker was a lot more friendly. So, the theory behind what I was doing here is I'm still grinding skins. So I was doing about two things at the same time, getting some kills, trying to get as many victories as I possibly can, but also doing my Ostwind a bit of a favour. Now, personally, I've neglected SPA, primarily because they were boring to play in the early matches, and because I think, for most part, they were very difficult. I just couldn't get the guns to work. Whenever I spawn SPA, I would sit there, look at the sky, I would never be able to spot a plane. When I would, it would be flying directly towards me, guns blazing, bombs dropping, rockets firing, and I just couldn't hit it. And it takes practice. With SPA, as any tank in the game, it really takes practice to get that feel for it, and every single SPA has different guns, which means different lead, different shells, different color of tracers. I mean, there's so many little things that can tip you off. But practice makes perfect, so we'll see towards that a bit at the end of the video. For the starters, Carpathians. Let me say a word about this map. This is one of the worst map designs in the game, and it's not the map itself, it's where the capture points are, and it's the AI. Now, luckily for us, we spawned on the northern side for a single cap where Alpha is located on top of the hill, on the castle. This means two things. First of all, we have to do nothing, and the capture point will belong to us. Why? Because the AI will drive in it. And that's the worst part, because nobody on our team is going to get to the capture point before the AI do, which means nobody on our team is going to get massive amounts of spawn points. In a normal match, this could result in at least 2 to 3 players receiving spawn points, which if then they proceed to be taken out, can then respawn planes, can provide some closer support themselves, or can respawn a heavy tank, and lay siege somewhere else. But in this case scenario, even though I'm in a medium tank and I'm doing my reasonably decent work at rushing towards a capture point, taking a stopping point, shooting a few AI, I'm going to discuss that in a second. And as you can see, the capture point has just started to be capped by AI, by our it's our team, but it's fugazi, it's things that don't exist. That's what AI are. An AI doesn't respawn in a plane, an AI doesn't respawn in a AAA, an AI is just a tank, an entity, it exists on the battlefield, it drives in a pre-directed, developed course, and then just stops somewhere and ends up shooting at whatever it can spot. It can spot things across the map, it can shoot through the map, it's just... I mean, if they rework them, maybe, in the sense that AI would play like normal players, but in the sense is, when there's 16 people on both teams, there's absolutely no point to have AI in the first place. So just, Control-Alt-Delete and get rid of them. Why am I killing AI? The reason I'm killing AI is because these things seem to count towards kills in a tank. Meaning, if I kill an AI T-34, it counts as an exact same kill on both the stat card and the kill progression for the camouflages and locks as if I killed a player T-34. So the thing is, whilst I'm sitting here and I'm kind of just waiting, the thing is, I actually have to kill these AI, because if the enemy comes and they kill our AI, then these AI are going to capture the capture point instead of our AI. It's a bit of a conglomerate as it is. So I kill a few of them and then push forward, spot myself a Sherman Jumbo, making a side weight up to the side of the actual capture point. You can see just how long it took the Sherman Jumbo to get up this hill, and now he's faced with the impeccable doom of seeing a Panther just sitting there waiting for him. So, again, the map design, extremely one-sided, pretty biased. And then the problems start coming in. The FV4202. This thing is devastating. At 6.3, gets a lot of down tiers if the person puts it in a good lineup. I mean, probably arguably, I'd say this is one of the best tanks in the game right now at its BR. But that's not going to save him because he played a bit too aggressive here. Now, luckily enough, he got a shot at me, but loader's out. The Tiger 2P behind me is getting set on fire. I'm kind of in this spot where I have to make a decision how I'm going to get rid of him, and it shouldn't be a problem because he drives side on. So he had a good idea, he had a good approach, but because of how slow he was at coming towards the capture point, and because of all the AI surrounding him, he was confused, as in, am I being shot by an AI, am I being shot by a player? A common misconception, and I get finished off by an IS2 who managed to get a good push on. Now, because we have the capture point, and because we have the objective, because we have the ticket bleed, I'm thinking I can spawn a plane. This is where spawning a plane, I think, is justifiable, especially when it's a fighter, and it includes no bombs, no nothing. I'm using gun pods on this thing, I'm going to go straight in, and I'm going to do some damage on the enemy team. When you're spawning planes, this is a bit of a tip for those of you who like close air support, at least for those of you who like it until patch 1.71 hits. Don't spawn planes in when half your team's in planes, and don't spawn planes in when you don't have the objective, because what you're ending up doing is you could potentially render your team in a loss, and you'll see this in a moment because the tickets are about to take a massive turn. So the enemy team is now located around Alpha. They've managed to get around the hill, they've flanked it, they're sitting behind the walls, our teammates are being damaged, they're repairing, there's a bunch of AI there. It's going to take some time for this match to develop, so what I'm doing at the moment is just kind of spying around. I'm trying to find some targets I can kill. If I'm looking on the ground targets, since I've got no bombs, what I can do is I can spot tanks by shooting at them, and I can shoot at SPA who are open top and kill them. What I didn't foresee is that there's nobody in planes. That was my initial course. It was trying to go after enemy aircraft, trying to counter close air support with an early spawned plane. This is a very effective way to do it. Unfortunately, when you check the stat cards, for an enemy to have an SPA, to have a plane up, he needs to have some points. He needs to have a capture point, maybe some kills, an assist, and nobody on the enemy team had that and have been taken out. So effectively, you know, I've got no planes to engage. So instead I strafe some M19s, and I'm constantly paying attention to that side of the map where the enemy planes spawn in. Effectively what I'm doing is I'm glancing at the enemy spawn point number 2, aka the plane spawn point. So to secure my position in the air, kind of making sure they don't get taken out, I obviously focus the SPA first, take him out, and then observe what's happening at the capture point. I can see an M18 Hellcat, a top open vehicle, I can very easily kill it. So take the plane up into a vertical, we're going to do a bit of a, kind of a simple loop really, just kind of stall ourselves on top, and an enemy SPA has also been spotted in the enemy spawn. So I got to be careful, if I come too close to it, he's going to damage me. So I re-engage the M18, and then quickly pull out of the dive. And this is where the cap's starting to go from one point to another. This is the tipping point of the match. One of the few, obviously. That depends how the game goes. With the capture point being taken over by the enemy team, what they're going to be doing is doing a perimeter, meaning they're going to be pushing us from that top hill position. If they can do that for long enough, we're going to lose on tickets regardless of how good our team is. So I take out the M18, receive some hits from the AC Mark II, and get taken out. Now, because I've spent about 2.5 minutes in the actual BFR9, done a bunch of damage and killed 2 tanks, resulting, I have now a lot of spawn points I can distribute, and I can, I can choose anything. I can respawn the Panther A backup, I can respawn the BFR9, but I thought since the objective is no longer in our possession, and because the ticket bleed has started, this is the time we go back into a tank, we start doing the objective again. So you're kind of juggling around. And the Tiger E, I think, was the perfect choice for this. Unfortunately, I think I chose the wrong spawn point. I wanted to get the other one, but whatever it is. So I spawn back in, I look around towards where the enemy might be, and I just start really just ravagingly pushing in. Because what I have to do at this point is I have to go back to the capture point, I've got to eliminate the players that are going to be pushing towards our spawn, because that's a natural progression of the match, and I immediately spot that enemy close air support has come after me. It's a Wyvern, and there's not much that I can do against him. Now, the Tiger E does have a top-mounted machine gun, but this one isn't going to do enough work. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to position myself in a point where the Wyvern has a nasty strike position, and then everything goes wrong. Now I've got a T-44 that's sitting behind our spawn waiting for me. Now I try to angle the armor, go back towards him, but if his shots are anything close to accurate, I'm not going to survive the 30 seconds that it requires for the repair of the cannon breach. So this is where the match goes from bad to worse to potentially this might be the game tipping point. I do slot some smoke around me, but again, T-44, if he keeps the pipper on the target, he knows I can't move. So, boom, I'm taken out. Now, what I decided to do at this point is, and this was a very, very bold decision on my end, I decided that I was going to respawn a heavy tank again. And just before you get mad at the spawn point system, if I didn't use the plane before, I wouldn't have enough spawn points to spawn a heavy tank twice and still have leftover points. So I took the Tiger H and I spawned the same point where I know the T-44 will be. Why? Because I want to get rid of him. If that T-44 stays there and he progresses to push towards our spawn point, we're going to be dead. And I can see him. He's going from one spawn point to a different one. So immediately just turn the gun around, I'm still in spawn protection, aim for the weak spot, and boom, ammo rack blows up, center of the mass. All in all, so far we're still doing pretty good. The teammates are taking care of the enemy aircraft. Our Panther F just rushed in, traded a Slugger for the IS-2, and the capture point's been uncapped. Now, this isn't going to stay there for a very long time, so I've got a bit of a window of opportunity to push through towards it and hopefully retake the cap. You've guessed it, I don't get there. I don't get there because the enemy close air support is on point. And it's not just that. Enemy has SPA, enemy has good fighters, and our team has a very, very poor choice of lineups. We're looking at vehicles of 4.7 BR in a 5.7 to 6.0 battle rating range, perhaps even 6.3. Most of our fighter planes just didn't stand a chance. So it's time for the one thing that does stand a chance, not just against planes, but in general against any plane given or thrown at it. The Ostwind. And I think when it comes to all SPA, in the range of 4.7 to 6.3, the Ostwind is the god among SPA. This is one of the finest SPA in the game. Its long-range capabilities, its accuracy, its infinite reload practically, make this an absolute joy to use. Now, if you're looking at me trying to arrange the shots here, you'll realize that I'm missing absolutely everything. And that's the thing about SPA, they're difficult to get the hang of because you don't play them a lot, and when you do actually spawn them in, there's a bunch of planes up, you don't know which one to focus on, there's a Bearcat, and there's a Spitfire, and there's a Wyvern, and some of them are shooting at you. It's kind of difficult to figure out what you want to shoot down first. The trick to it is you just gotta wait. Eventually somebody's gonna go head on, boom, you'll get them down. Eventually somebody's gonna go into a flat spin turn, boom, you got them off. You just have to prioritize them one after another, and the weakest the planes are is when they're turning. And when a plane comes out of a turn, when it's just come out of that kind of speed bleed, that's when you strike. And to keep in mind, what we're doing right now is we're killing off planes, which cost about 1,000 spawn points to put in, with a vehicle that costs about 150. It's a price-cost difference of about 1 to 7. That's the difference that you're doing here. So for every single plane that you kill, that enemy must have killed about 2 or 3 of your tanks to be even able to spawn it in. That's where the trade-off of SPA versus planes is so effective. What's effectively happened over the past couple of minutes is that the enemy team captured the point. They all went from using tanks, securing the point, to using planes, thinking, well, close air support is going to win them the game. And it could have, if they weren't for two things. Our players re-engaging the cap, and our players using SPA. And so what's happening is that every single plane I shoot down that hasn't done enough damage, that player will not be able to respawn anything but perhaps a SPA. And an SPA right now is not going to win them the game. What the enemy team would have to do right now is do enough damage to kill every single vehicle that's surrounding A point, respawn in a tank, and then rush the capture point. And you guessed it, they don't have enough players, they don't have enough time. As long as I stay alive in the Ostwind, securing this capture point somewhat by just shooting in the near vicinity of the enemy aircraft, annoying them, maybe delaying or making their rocket attacks a little bit more inaccurate, as long as I keep doing that, we're going to win the target. Because we've got 4 or more tanks waiting in the capture point, meaning that every single plane that comes in, especially an average Firefly or a Griffin Spitfire, will have to hit about, well, 80% of their rockets to be able to eliminate us from the match. So the tipping point has happened, and even though I'm still being engaged by a Yak and I'm being shot to by another Spitfire and Bearcat, the enemy is just continuously spawning in planes by neglecting what the objective is. Aircraft can win you games, 100%. I've had multiple matches where spawning in planes was able to bring back a dead game, but it doesn't win matches. SPA is still the superior thing to a casual plane match. And the miraculous focus here that you've noticed is that the enemy fighters, with no bombs, no rockets, were continuously engaging me. Why? Because I'm the only target they can even bear to penetrate. Unfortunately, I'm also waiting for them. An Ostwind is not a target that's just waiting there to be killed. An Ostwind is there, waiting to kill. When you're playing SPA, don't be in the mindset of, I'm the weak spot. Be in the mindset of I'm the predator. Hide around, wait for the enemy planes to come in, spot them, wait for the opportune time to strike, and just blow them out of the sky. It's so easy to do when you've got the good shells loaded up, when you have an intermediate amount of actual, progressive lead. Because essentially what an SPA is just a machine firing traces at a very, very high pace, very accurately up the sky. And if the enemy plane can be caught in a weak spot, in a low maneuver, especially low altitude, low passes, low speed passes, that's when you strike. Again, a Bearcat, a low speed pass, you just have to get the lead in, and boom, set on fire. That's going to be our, probably like 6th kill. And so to give my own opinion here, by the way, this is the end game. There's at this point, there's nothing the enemy can do. This is the tipping point. I call this the GG moment, which is practically the point where it doesn't matter how many tanks the enemy spawns in, how many planes they rush in, the game's over. The tickets have come to a point where the enemy just doesn't have enough time and resources to push towards the cap and be able to reverse it. Close air support wins matches. This is what I've been hearing for the past 3 months, and every single day on stream, somebody comes in and asks about my opinion on the close air support spam. Here's my opinion. Close air support doesn't win matches. There's only one specific map scenario on which close air support is actually really powerful. Double caps. What's also important about that game mode is that there's no initial capture points, which means there's going to be no plane spam within the first 5 minutes, because the only way to get a plane on a double cap is by actually doing kills. And if you're telling me that it's so easy to spawn a plane, then you've probably not done your job angling the tank, doing reverse damage. And whatever the argument might be, as good as Allied close air support might be, as good as the Griffin might be at close air support with the British, there's something in the game that is simply superior to all of them. German SPAA.